Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Berger.
Here.
Ms. Gabrielka. Here. Mr. Corey. Mr. Freitas.
Here.
Mr. Ugalito.
Here.
Here. Ms. Richardson. Here. Ms. Toder. Here. Mayor Carbone, a representative. Mr. Barlow.
Here.
Ms. Ferguson. Here. Ms. Klemazewski.
Here.
Ms. Wobanski.
Here.
Mr. Petrozelli.
Here.
Ms. Schulte.
Here.
Ms. Theans.
Ms. Harold.
Ms. Harold.
Entertain a motion to approve the agenda, adding an item after 6 recognitions, making it 7, entitled student reports, and then making information sharing item 8.
I do. I was actually going to ask if we could amend the agenda for another item on the community health and wellness at our schools.
Excuse me, can we finish this one first?
It's one of the, we can't modify. Yeah, that's fine. If we have to do it one at a time. I didn't know
Because
it's
we
because
already
it was.
have a motion
And a
and a
second.
second.
Right, but that's no discussion. She's asking.
Who was the second?
I didn't.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you seconded it? Oh,
Yeah, I did.
So now it's discussion, and you want to change it to add.
I wanted to add, discuss the discussion around community health and wellness in the district, in the schools.
That was your motion.
Sure. Yes.
Will you second?
Yes. And where do you want that to be?
That's up to Fiona.
Put it in, let's make it item B, and then move everything else down. 8B. and then- yeah. All those in favor? School community service, public participation. The board invites members of the community to speak on topics to be addressed in the agenda or other topics of interest. People wishing to speak must state their name and address at the beginning of their comment. The board will not allow comments regarding specific staff members, parents, students, or personal grievances. Courtesy is expected in this limited public forum, so participating time will be limited to 3 minutes per person and 10 minutes overall. If no one signed up, Ally, do we have anyone on the line? Thank you. Recognitions. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. It's a wonderful way to start our meeting by acknowledging our students and staff at the very beginning of our board. So this meeting is no different. We have several people in attendance, and it's great to see staff support other staff in their recognition. So we're going to get started with the high school. And I want to acknowledge first Faisal Alam. So Faisal, you can come up. Faisal has received a letter of commendation from the National Merit Scholarship Program for his outstanding performance on the PSAT National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. This is an outstanding accomplishment. We are very proud of him. His dedication to his studies is very impressive. This year, he requested that he do an independent study in neuroscience, and we granted that request gladly, and I'm sure he's doing exceptional in that class. I know that Faisal will be receiving many more awards and recognitions. We are very happy to welcome back our student representatives. We have student representatives doing reports at the beginning of every board meeting, and we have 2 representatives with us here this evening. And I'm going to introduce those students. Did they go? They already went over there. All right, I'm going to have you come on back around because we want to give you a certificate as well. So while you're coming around, I'm going to introduce them. We have Ethan Stater and we have Marco Dodonna, and they are representing the high school very well this evening. They are seniors and they are members of the boys soccer team. Ethan. And Ethan is an outstanding student in our amazing tech ed department where he excelled in his work in the wood shop. His engaging personality has allowed him to succeed as a student teaching assistant in the construction class this year. Very impressive. He can frequently be seen during his free periods stopping down to help students in the introductory classes. His list of successes continue beyond the classroom. He was named Game Time Connecticut Athlete of the Week earlier this month for his performance. Is an outstanding student and member of the National Honor Society, so an athlete and a scholar. Marco participates in 2 varsity sports, both swimming and soccer. Marco was chosen by his swim coach during his junior year to lead his outside of school. Marco earned his black belt in karate and uses his knowledge of martial arts to teach younger students. 2 of our role models. Join us. And I've already told them they don't have to stay the whole time. Now you see the agenda and then we can have it. So we'll join you very soon. We're going to move on to Southwest and the middle school. This student is being honored in both schools. She was in Southwest last year and she's a part of Torrington Middle School this year. And Izora Pena. Very shy and very humble. She won the poster contest for the state of Connecticut. This was for the Revolutionary Poster Contest. And this is a Connecticut contest, but it also goes nationwide. So she's also had her poster entered in the national contest as well. So the organization recognized her for her accomplishment. Obviously, Zora is a quiet soul with self-confidence, quiet self-confidence, and a very, very talented artist. This recognition. Congratulations, sir. Stay up here, okay, because she's had some help along the way. This wouldn't have been possible without her teacher at Southwest, Matt Parkhouse. Come on. We encourage this whole class to participate in the Revolutionary Poster Contest, which is run by the National Society, the Sons of the American Revolution. Several of his students accepted the challenge and entered their posters, and obviously Asura won the contest for Connecticut. Michael Bird, who's also a part of the National Society, the Sons for the American Revolution. Yay! Come down. All good. Thank you so much. Also, at the middle school, another honoree being recognized this evening, Gina Whaley. Gina Whaley is an amazing asset to the TMS school community. Gina has led the National Junior Honor Society program for the last 3 years. She consistently engages student leaders to interact with student, staff, and the community to build empathy and compassion. Most recently, students supported a collection for Hurricane Ian's victims and a food drive for helping Aunt's Food Bank. Ms. Whaley is also engaged the students in organizing our school care closet. The work of the National Junior Honor Society students is also helping to build a whole school community. This week, they coordinated a school spirit week through posters, Google Slides that were shared in the advisory classes. In addition to her work with National Junior Honor Society, she led the 6th grade orientation presentation this year. I can tell you that her enthusiasm, her passion is palpable. She has devoted countless hours to her students as well as to the CMS community. And now moving on to Torrington. Torrington, we have Lisa Frazier. Come on down, Lisa. To power in our Voices 2 program. This summer, while we were still hiring for a teacher, she took it upon herself to set up the classroom and ensure it was ready and welcoming and inviting to students and families. Lisa is always offering help to others when she sees there is a need. Her calm-demeanor and positive outlook provides support to everyone at Torrington. She is incredibly giving to care. Our next honoree is also from Torrington, and that's Alexa Perez-Ortiz. She's a bilingual parent, has been with us since the beginning of the last school year, so she's been around a little bit, but we're looking forward for more connections this year, right? Alexa has done far more than translation. She teaches right alongside the teacher. Each day, Alexa proactively takes notes on class lessons to review the information with the English language teacher. To help build relationships with families, Alexa took time to translate the feedback comments on tests into Spanish. Her students have made tremendous progress. Last year, part of the team that is responsible for that. Thank you so much. Now on to local website. Andrew, come on again. Andrew Perugini has been the DLC program teacher for quite some time. She is being recognized for her hard work every year, but in particular this year, she has gained or had a significant number of young students and a lot of students added to her label. But with a positive attitude and with that smile always, Andrea's managed her staff, larger space, and most of all, her students' mastery. In just the short time that we've been in school, we have seen a marked difference in her students. She is dedicated, hardworking, and always makes the best of every situation. Courtney Quigley, come on down. In addition to being a multi-year teacher of the year, being recognized for excellence in math instruction, a little secret about Courtney that's not such a secret anymore is that she's the champion of both Wetmore's Gardens. It's another patch in the purse. She has written grants to raise volunteers, secured donations. As a result of these efforts, both Wetmore now has a private garden, both indoors and outdoors. It's quite a sight to see, so it's at least go by outside. We also organized a school-wide Harvest Fest that allowed every student to take part in activities in and around the garden. She invited, scheduled, and trained parent volunteers of the Golden Garden and the Harvest Fest. This has been one of the most exciting days at Old Western. Now moving on to course, Corey Wadlinger. How are you? In his role as a school psychologist, Corey is an integral part of the overall success at Forest. His work with students helps ensure that all students are getting the support that they need. Corey is part of our behavioral team that provides wraparound support for students and builds their life skills for success, both inside and outside of the classroom. Makes a significant impact on the students and their lives.
Thank you.
each other for a long time. Dawn is an outstanding support for our school and our district. She goes above and beyond to support students and teachers on a daily basis. She is a member of our lead team at Forbes and is committed to every child's success. Her work as an instructional coach has made a huge impact on our students' successes. In addition to this award, I just have to say, Dawn has like a whole list of awards, amazing things that she's done. But just to highlight, she's been a team manager, she's been a model teacher, she's a former site and district teacher of the year. You don't have to say, we love that you are here. You set our meeting into a positive, we get on a positive roll. So thank you all for being here. And thank you for supporting each other, because it's really beautiful to see the communities and the school members supporting their staff. So thank you. And have a great evening.
So congratulations.
Yeah, it's fine for you guys.
I know, there you go. They're excited because you're giving your report.
So we're very happy to have the return of our student reports. It's really great to hear from you guys directly. So we appreciate you guys taking the time out of your busy schedules. So we have Ethan Stater and Marco Dodano. Not sure which one's going to go first, but thank you very much for coming. The band's playing for you. The band is playing for you.
Torrington Stater, and we're 12th graders, students at Torrington High School, we're leadership students, and upcoming events at THS.
We'll first begin with the THS Student Theater. They'll be presenting Arthur Miller's The Crucible on December 1st, 2nd, and 3rd at 7 p.m. in the Little Theater. Tickets will be $5 for students and $10 for adults. The set for this play is designed by Max Bitter with lighting design by Roland Villar. Ella Campus Hathaway is stage manager, and Abigail Folds is assistant the director. Freya Harrell and Viennese Rojas are the customers.
For PE, on October 19th, the PE and Health Department arranged for grade level assemblies on the dangers of substance abuse. The families of victims shared their stories to help our student body in dealing with these dangers.
On October 1st, the cheer team performed during the halftime at UConn football home game. This was a great opportunity and experience for the athletes to experience cheer at a collegiate level.
The art department has kicked off the year diving into material experimentation and creating works of art.
The English department recently hosted their annual Banned Books Week. Coming up soon will be Torrington, a spooky storytelling, which will happen on Monday, October 31st at 1:10 p.m.
The ESL department was busy at the start of the year, welcoming new students from all over the globe. As of the end of September, 27 students from 10 countries who speak Arabic, French, Polish, Portuguese, Czech, Spanish, Urdu, Yosa, and Zulu have joined our community. This year's students have come to THS from as far away as Brazil, Guatemala, Pakistan, and South Africa.
Our math department is running 2 AP courses this year, AP Calculus AV and AP Computer Science A. Additionally, this semester started a new math club, giving students the opportunity to receive practice, tips, and strategies on the SAT materials so they can improve future scores.
Band, chorus, and orchestra have started strong this year. Enrollment for choir is at the highest in recent memory. Band has performed at the September home football games and participated in the 2022 Bristol Mums Parade, where they won first place Best Appearing High School Band.
School counseling department recently held their college funding night. Nearly 50 parents and students attended, where they learned the ins and outs of college financial aid process.
This year, the science department introduced several new classes, including UConn ECE Biology, UConn ECE Biotechnology, Oceanography, and Marine Biology.
In 2008, Torrington High School graduate came to speak to some of our social study classes concerning what it is like to work for the FBI. He has spent the last 10 years working for the DEA and the FBI.
Spanish speaker classes have been concentrating on activities related to Hispanic heritage by sharing readings, creating projects, and participating in activities, highlighting those who have made an impact on the Hispanic culture. There is an informational display in the LMC created by a Spanish 4 and 5 classes together with the multicultural club.
As athletes, our Torrington soccer team had made it to NBLs and states. As of right now, we do not know who we're facing against on Saturday or the times. States,
States would be after FBLs, but right in the next 2 weeks.
that's it.
Is that game Saturday home or
Most likely away.
Yeah.
away? Good luck.
We're fighting for a home game for states.
Oh, good.
We're right on the line of yes and no.
Good.
That would be so exciting. Hopefully it's yes.
Hoping some teams will lose. So that
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
You can be dismissed. You can go. It's really okay.
Thank you.
Unless you want us to.
Wait, I'm coming with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
Superintendent's report, Office of Teaching and Learning. Oh, sorry.
I'll be brief, I
She wants to
promise.
go
Yeah, just super quick. Yeah, it's wonderful to have the students back and it's great to hear all the wonderful things that are going on. Just a quick update, elementary school had their back to school night and great participation, positive feedback. Things really, really went well. Just continuing that feeling of this better year, things moving forward. On that same evening, we had our Judy Kovalar-Dillard, who some of you know from the Be Ready project, held her Celebrate Belonging in Your Community, which was also successful, a little less attended, I think, because there were so many things going on that evening. So maybe something, a coordinated effort in spring or summer. She's also part of the diversity committee, so I think that she's working with that as well. Yesterday, Sue, Donna Labby, and I attended the recognition for Jude Snyder. Many of you know she's just a force in our community. She's going strong at 94. She is so amazing. If you don't know, she has really coordinated over the last several years
20 years.
our after-school literacy reading program, which started at East School. So that'll tell you how long ago, and then it's moved to various locations and landed at the Glass Building. But she is retiring in December, so the Rotary Club really wanted to acknowledge all of her efforts and her energy for the and passion for the community. So it was lovely to be a part of that yesterday. Also, on a positive, COVID cases seem to be on the decline, so I still am required to report those cases to the state, and fingers crossed that this continues to go in that direction as we go through winter. So, keep fingers crossed. All good?
Thank you. Office of Teaching and Learning update.
So we are rocking and rolling, folks, in OTL. I want to give a shout out to my OTL colleagues. I have to say that in the 4 years that I've done this, I think this is the busiest and the most productive that I honestly have felt. We have so much professional learning happening. Most of it is homegrown. Some of it, as you know, we're partnering with an agency in the state called Literacy How to provide the science of reading training, and that's really, really starting to help us move the needle. We're already seeing some results, and we're going to be happy to share with you some of our fall district assessment information at school improvement next week. So we're pretty excited about that. It's baseline data, but it's more positive than we've seen in a long time. So we're pretty excited. We are on November 8th. We're planning for PD. We are doing something this time that is new for me. We are going to run a district-wide PD where we are grouping teachers from kindergarten right up through grade 12 together to work on improving and increasing student discourse. It's really all about student-centered academic conversation, making thinking visible. We're very excited. And I want to also shout out to the facilitators who were kind of voluntold but are now happy to be helping with that effort on November 8th. We have several teachers, coaches, interventionists, a couple of administrators who are going to help to facilitate those groups. So we're excited about that. Also that day, our secretaries are going to participate in the human trafficking training. That'll be that afternoon. Let's see. Oh, reading update. We've been talking about this for a couple of years. You all know that the State Department had promised to release a list of approved reading programs, comprehensive reading programs. And then that was supposed to happen by June 30th, didn't. On September 29th, suddenly, without anybody, being aware, it suddenly appeared on the state website. So we have the list. We have a list of 6 programs. There's a lot of controversy around that right now in the state. So what we're doing is we have been in contact with the State Department to find out about next steps. But in the process, we're kind of doing some research on our own. So we learned not to wait and rely on them to get us what we need. So we have reached out to, Andrew and I have reached out to all the vendors to request samples. Some of them we've already received. So we're starting to take a look at that. So more information to come. I just told you our fall assessment administration is complete. We've analyzed the data. We'll bring that to SIC meeting. And we're also looking forward to launching for the first time since COVID happened to bringing back, resurrecting the curriculum council. So we have scheduled our first meeting for the end of November.
Teachers that work in the system, here everywhere else that I know. Always ask what the number 3 are, but what do you think we can look at math as a real problem, basis to figure out how we can really teach math that works. Math seems to be here and there.
Yeah, if you saw the NAEP reports, right, the National Assessment, right, of Student Progress, it's a national trend. Yeah, it's very concerning. And we're not ignoring math. Part of the problem is that math is very language dense, especially early, right? So if our children are struggling with reading, they're also going to struggle with math. So we're not ignoring math, but if we can correct and turn the ship on reading, I happen to believe that that's going to have some influence over our kids.
How about what we teach math? Only because Stop Math in Massachusetts insists, this may not be true, that the way the schools teach math, and maybe it doesn't let us in the school. Use whatever that is. has not worked for the last 10 years. The for students, I see it in my kids, my two youngest kids. Whether it be fractions, whether it be the basics of mathematics as they used to be taught. Some of the spatial things that they get into today, and some of the things that he personally thinks are very, very difficult to teach. And don't for the children, especially when they get to high school and college, don't grasp what's necessary beyond the eighth grade level to really conquer math. So I don't know exactly what we're teaching, not teaching. I'm just wondering if we look at those things. That's two. I mean, I know my nephew, for instance, one of them, he still does most fractions. He's a pretty good student. Actually, he's just one of it's not anybody's fault about blaming anybody. This friend of mine blames the mathematics programs that high schools are forced to follow, or maybe they just, or grammar schools, I should say, new math programs. They just don't do it. We have, how many teach math, or is that still a national common core thing? If it's common core, I don't know what it's.
Right, I don't know if you want to, yeah. So there's a couple of things going on there, right? I think some of our kids are math phobic. Oh my gosh, I can't get this right away. And they kind of say, okay, I'm not a math person, I'm a literacy person, or I'm a reading person. And I think that starts to happen really young. And then kids are like, it's just too hard, I can't do it. So there's that piece. And I think that there has been some return to just number sense and those basics, like you're saying. Right. So again, as we talked about back to basics in terms of reading, really having a back to basics in terms of that math to provide that foundation so that kids don't give up, because it is going to get harder. And so you've got to have those foundational skills before you move forward. So I think all of that's being taken into account. I think on a national level as well as the state level, we're looking at math as well for the very reasons that you're talking about. The test scores are going down, and what's the difficulty? And some of it is COVID, but some of it is we've had that dip for a while now. So what are we going to be doing? So, yeah.
No, and I could suggest, Gary, if you want to look up the way they developed the Common Core standards in math, it will be eye-opening. How few real teachers were involved in the lower level math skills.
Any other questions? Special education update.
So I decided to kind of broaden my monthly numbers and present it more in terms of our student services numbers, not just our special ed numbers. So it looks a little bit different than you're used to. And I broke it down a little bit more so that you can also see where we are with our babies, our pre-K kids, and also with our 18 to 22-year-olds. I just wanted to point out, this is nothing new, but I just never made a point of like bringing this to your attention, that we have 11, 18 to 22-year-olds that are outplaced. And I just wanted you to know they weren't recently outplaced. They had gotten to the point where they were 18 and they needed to continue in school till they were 22. So they just stayed in the program that they were in. Okay, so I just wanted to make you aware of that. And then I decided to put pre-K in here on a regular basis, just so you can kind of see the breakdown of everything, and also include the 504s. Because even though not special ed, we have a lot of students who have a lot of accommodations in place. So I thought that would be helpful to be able to see. Also down at the bottom, the two grids. As I've talked about before, we have a new IEP program called CT SEDS. It's giving a lot of gray hairs to a lot of people in the state. The CADCASE, which is the Council for Special Ed Leadership Group, they took a survey of all the directors in the state, and there were many, many pages of concerns with CT SEDS right now. So what's happened is we're trying to put it up into place. We legally have mandates that have to be met according to the national law, IDEA, and there are glitches in the program that are preventing things from being done properly. So for example, being unable to finalize a document and having to give the parents the draft copy. or typing up an IEP and having it disappear, or having it suddenly turn into half Spanish. So it's been an experience. Our people have been wonderful. They're going with the flow. Lisa Valenzusi's been amazing. She goes to tons of trainings every single week. So does Chrissy Hart, one of our secretaries who's in charge of all the numbers and whatnot. So we're trying to stay up with it. Honestly, I think that we're in better position than some districts who are really, really struggling with it. But it's gonna take a while. And I think the state is wondering if maybe they were a little quick in rolling it out at this point, and we're just trying to figure out how to get through the rest of the year. So if you hear any feedback about what's up with this new IEP system, that's what's coming out with that. And we're all staying on top of it as quickly as we can, and we're training our staff whenever we get new information on it. We welcome to our department Sue McMahon, who is our replacement for Gavin Craig at the middle school. She's been an amazing addition to our team. Jumped right in. She has a lot of experience as both a special ed teacher and a building assistant principal. So she brought that in and really has just fit in perfectly and is really working well with Shelley to get things going at the middle school over there. So she's been a nice addition. Let's see. The only other thing, so at the bottom here, the CT SEDS graphs. I will present these to you every month as well from now on. This one is not from October 1st because you can't go back and find a date. Maybe eventually, but right now, not so much. So as long as it's working and I can present graphs, I will, can't promise. But just, every month, you might want to know on the left what our counts are. So that's the number, I presented this before in table form, but how many referrals we have, how many consent for testing, all that. That's on the left. And then on the right, those are the 13 categories that you have to meet certain criteria to qualify for special education services and how many students we have in each one of the categories. So from now on, I'll print it out on the first of the month so that you can always see it on the first of the month. And then the only other thing is that I'm gonna be out for a little bit. I'm getting new knee. So Steve Barton, our high school supervisor, is gonna be filling in for me, so he'll come into the next meeting and give our report. Okay, that's it.
Good luck with your surgery.
Thank
Good
you.
luck with your surgery. You're brand new.
Gonna be running into it.
In the future, can we just get like a code of what these
Sure.
abbreviations mean a key?
Sure, yep, I can send that to you guys.
Yeah, no rush. but-
Yep.
Very good.
So Laura, do you see this year us showing improvement in identifying and servicing? Or- I haven't been there for months. So.
I know, we missed you. So, yeah, I think that in general, as a whole, we are seeing a calm to this year a little bit that we haven't seen in a couple of years. So yes, there are hot topics out there everywhere, but I think that people, other than CT SEDS, as far as my department goes, people know now, this is our 4th year, they know what to expect. We have processes going properly, so we're doing things the right way. Sue has really implemented some nice collaborative work that we are meeting with the building principals, with OTL, with us, to talk about behaviors, to talk about academics, and do that on a regular basis. So hopefully we can hone right into problems and get things in place for them. And then, as we're seeing those problems, we're adjusting what we need to. Our numbers are where they need to be, so that's good. And I think that we're at the point now where we have our programs in district, and we have a lot of kids who have been able to be brought back. Having said that, there are kids that at times we're gonna have to say, no, this isn't enough. And we are gonna be outplacing, but I feel a lot better since then when I first came in and we didn't have the options. And I felt like kids were either here in the classroom or you were outplaced. Now I feel like we have options available. So I feel overall like we're more effective. And yes, just like OTL, we really want to pound down now on the academics and the behavior and things of that nature. Other questions?
Thank you, Laura.
Sure.
HR update.
Thank you. So you have my normal monthly report. Last month we had the science vacancy and I'm happy to report that we have filled that position. Candidate won't be starting right away, but I'm also happy to say that it's a Torrington grad, so that's exciting.
That's
But,
great.
the person is currently in their program, so we're working with the university, but it was a great, perfect time. The stars aligned and it all worked out, so we have to cover it with a substitute, but you'll see her name on the consent agenda next month. So we're super excited about that because we always love bringing on Torrington grads. So, and then you have the classified vacancies. Our fill rates for September. So we've started off September a little bit higher than where we ended the year last year, in both our teachers and our paras, but still been tough, especially with the COVID numbers we had last month and everything, but we're working on that. As far as our initiatives go, we're continuing to cast the net for our classified vacancies. Kina and Lisa did attend the Winston Job Fair on October 20th. So they were able to get a few candidates. So they had about 6 or 7 candidates that expressed interest. 2 of them have applied. So we're fingers crossed that that's going to work out. We also had Kelly Services hosted an in-district job fair on the 20th at the middle school. The job fairs are tough these days, but I think they got a little bit of buzz, so we're hoping to increase our substitute pool. I did hold a 30-day check-in with our new teachers on October 6th. It was a really great experience. Just talk to them about what was their experience in 30 days, something good, something that they needed help with, support with. Had conversations with the schools like the next day about some of the things that they brought up. So I think we're trying to address that early on so that we can work on retention and make sure that we're supporting all of our new staff the way that we need to in their first year of service with the district. Beginning in November, Takina and I are going to have office hours at the site. So we're going to visit, each of us is going to visit one school in the month. She's going to do 3, I'll do 3, and then the next month we'll switch. And we're really just going to go to the school and set up camp there, and anybody that wants to come in and visit us and they're having problems accessing frontline or absence management, or have a question about their benefits or their pay or anything that they want, it's kind of just going to be an office hours kind of thing so that we can support people and help them with any questions they may have. And then as far as wellness goes, yoga's in full swing, so we have staff participating in that. And we have our flu clinic scheduled in district for this week, Thursday and Friday. You have your comparison of Kelly Services versus Torrington for the month. Our staff turnover so far for the beginning of the 22-23 school year. And then at the bottom, Fiona, you had asked for a breakdown of the 29 vacancies that we had for last year for the paras and what it looks like. So I provided you with that. I did just want to explain, with the behavior techs, we had 6 openings, but 4 of them were filled with current paraprofessionals. So on the right, I kind of gave you the notes so that you can see with the special ed paras, there was 16 total vacancies, but really there was 4 more than that. There was 20 because we also had to fill the 4 people who moved into the behavior techs, if that makes sense, just so that you understood the math, why it all worked out. It was 4, that's where that 4 came from? Yes. I was looking at those, wondering. So there was 6 behavior tech vacancies. Yeah. And on the right, 4 of them were filled with our current paraprofessionals.
Gotcha.
So we had to fill those 4 vacancies as well as filling the 16 true vacancies that existed. So that's why when you see that we filled 13 of them, but there's still 7 vacancies, that's where that comes from. And they're not 7 vacancies right now. That was 7 vacancies that were on last report.
Yeah.
Yes. Just on back to the paraprofessionals. Sure. The safety, the security paras, behavior techs, and the others, special ed, these were the positions that we put in the budget last year, and this is the breakdown of those. So no, positions.
this is all of on last month's report, when I provided you kind of the
Everything,
overall,
This is-
kind of
experience of every vacancy we posted from March through the opening of school year.
Yep.
I kind of given you the overview of all the hiring we did over the summer.
Oh, so
But
this is
because
what
there
this
was
is.
so much of it, I had just chunked it all together and said we had 29 para openings and we
Okay.
filled, 24. Fiona had asked for a breakdown of what that looked like, so I just wanted to provide you with that breakdown.
And that
So this
number-
doesn't reflect current. This reflects where we were on September 1st, if that makes sense.
Yep,
What you have on the front page
It does
reflects
now.
current.
yep, okay.
September or March?
Well, it's where we were as of September 1st, right? So September 1st, we had filled 24 of our 29 vacancies. That was what was on my report last month.
The bottom part right here. Thing from March to September.
Gary, and
I don't know why
No,
March.
it's
It's not August.
I was gonna ask you about safety and security. We're all set.
We are all
You
set with
filled
that,
them.
all filled.
I was looking at vacancies.
One of them with the Torrington grant. So,
Sub fill rates?
Yep.
Teachers? 53%? Is that normal or?
we ended the year at 47% last year, so it's an increase. Pre-COVID, we were closer to like the 80s, 82%. Right now, 53% is probably about average in the country, because people can find permanent jobs with benefits other places and not have to take a substitute job. So substitutes are hard to find right now because there's enough jobs out there for everybody.
So was it- I don't, yeah, so maybe we're reading it wrong, because
Of the jobs that were available that needed a substitute, 53% of them were filled. So
yeah,
then,
you just whispered that.
yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Teachers were sub 53%. Sub. Teacher.
Absences, right, so they're.
No,
absences.
that's substitute fill rates. So that means, if a given day, like if today there was 50 absences and 20 of them needed a substitute, maybe we were only able to get 10 of those filled, which means then, but the schools also have building subs that they can use. We have contract language in the para contract that a para can fill. We don't like to do that because certainly those paras are supposed to be providing services for students, but the schools have creative ways to be able to fill those needs, but it's a challenge nationwide.
So if a parent, sorry, another question, it just triggered in my head when you said that, when a parent is, if it's in their contract, if they do have to sub for a day, does that change their pay scale for the
Yep,
day?
they get a differential rate that's in the contract. And they also have to be obviously qualified to do that.
Mhm.
So they have to
Yep.
make sure that they have that, the
Certification or whatever they have.
we put them
Whatever
into
the
the
state
state.
requirement is now.
Yeah, bachelor's degree to be a paraprofessional, or they have to be certified with the state. There's a form that we fill out, but the state's actually made it very easy now, so we just have to do it as an online submission.
Oh, okay.
And we send out something to all of our paras regarding whether or not they're interested in covering on an emergent basis. Again, we don't like to do that because we know they're supposed to be servicing our special ed students, but oftentimes what happens is, you might have a para and that student might be absent, so we're able to make it work.
Yeah.
So the schools really work with their special ed supervisors to make sure that they're meeting the student needs, but we're also filling the needs within the buildings.
Sorry, go ahead. The more information you give me, the more questions I'm coming up with. As far as the paraprofessionals, you said you don't want to take away from the individual services and the sped supervisor, paras. How many of our paras, it says there's a total of 180. How many of those are for gen ed and how many are for sped?
So the number, I'm gonna give you an estimate, but I want to say it's around 155 are special ed. Or shaking her head, yes, then I'm pretty close. And then we have our library media paras, then we have our ELL bilingual paras, and then our safety and security associates. So,
And so just so you know, the 155, that's not just programs. So those are any parents that are working in the regular classroom,
Right.
but they're working with students that have IEPs that require the
Yep,
support.
so that's, okay, and then, so the other 30 are, do those get allocated as library media paras, safety and security paras.
Yep.
They're not providing supports in the classroom.
Correct. They're not providing direct supports through an
Because I thought
IEP.
last year when we did the budget and presented it, what we specifically asked for were supports in the gen ed classrooms. Those 33 para positions, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, I don't know, I think we talked about providing supports to the gen ed staff, and it doesn't seem like any of those positions are going there.
Yeah, when we talked about the budget and then we got nothing, I mean, we had minimal.
Right, but then we were
increase.
told, Ed
And
Aaron
so then,
said that he figured out a way to be able to include those positions, but we never got that information.
yeah, but the difficulty is how many paras have we not been able to hire for?
So I think
So
Ed had
this is
presented at a budget
difficult.
committee meeting that, so if we were to post 30 general education paraprofessional positions.
Yep.
Every one of our special ed paras would apply for those jobs,
Mhm.
and then we would not be able to fill our
Right,
special.
which I'm not suggesting
So
that
we
we do
didn't-
that,
so we
but
didn't-
we
we
need
didn't-
those supports filled for the gen ed classes as well, though. But it's not, so where are we at with that?
So then Ed proposed that maybe we hire teachers, but we hire a much smaller number in terms of that.
Okay,
So at this point, we didn't fill those positions.
with teachers or paras?
What
Did
we
you fill
did
the teachers?
instead, because we're targeting K1, so we were trying to keep those numbers small. So in particular, at the kindergarten level, we are running class size at 16, 17,
Mhm.
rather than having an extra person in that class. But with SPED students being in those classes, they have paras in those classes, as well as EL paras in those classes.
For
So there
specific
are
students though, right? For sped students, they're
SPED
one-on-ones.
students, But also when you're
they're not
looking at
one-on-one?
No, I mean, some children do have one-on-ones, but often in the classrooms, yes, they're in there, they're assigned in that classroom because those students are in there.
Yeah.
But it's not to hover over that one student, it's to offer support in general.
For the whole class?
Yes,
Under type of IEPs.
yes, right, that's how, right.
So have we filled those positions that we talked about at the teacher level? It just seems we had blood, sweat, and tears over this budget, which we always do, but very specifically requested for supports in these classes.
So when we last spoke about it was gonna be focused on K1. It
Right,
was not gonna be all over.
but, okay, so is
Okay,
that
so
happening?
what I'm saying is in kindergarten, because our numbers turned out to be so low, we just left that status quo in terms of our kindergarten classes.
Okay.
Because originally, when we were presenting, we were talking about classes of 21, 22,
Right,
which is high,
It is high,
especially
sure.
for younger kids.
Mhm.
So when you're looking at it and you're looking at 16 students per class, that's much more doable.
sure.
Instead of saying, okay, what we're gonna do is we're gonna add more kids to that class and then we're gonna hire a teacher. Because there's a national teacher shortage
Right,
as well
Right,
across the country.
that still doesn't answer my question. I appreciate that explanation, but
Yep.
so we have lower classes, so we didn't have to backfill or use those positions at the K1 level, right? So what are we doing with that?
So we didn't hire more because
Okay.
we had enrollment.
So is our
much
staff
lower
Satisfied
we
that they have the supports that
thought
they
we
need?
had.
Like, when we talked at budget, there were concerns, and now I'm just wondering, I'm putting it out there, maybe we can get feedback. Is everyone satisfied that they have the supports that they need at the classroom level for gen ed? Not sped, if we have 155 paras for special education, that's great. But are our teachers getting the supports they need is the question. That's where, we talked about it, we asked for those positions.
So I think what we should do, because I think there's a couple of factors here. I think it's important for us to look at what we had in the budget for staffing for parents, meaning that, so like these 29 vacancies that we have here, we don't really know, are they backfilling positions that were vacated? Are they new positions? What are they? And I think we need to get a better understanding of not just the paras, but the behavior techs, behavior techs.
Right, if
that we
they're,
have.
if they're library media specialists, or if they're,
Right.
you know, where are these positions
Right.
being allocated?
So maybe we can get an analysis of what we had last year and what that same structure looks like
Total
this
number,
year,
yeah.
what our current numbers
You want the
are.
total number? Yes, we can do that.
By-
We have a shared spreadsheet.
We
that
are
we
right on,
check
shut on
on,
each other
like,
all the time.
all the time. So, yes, we can do that.
We're good.
Because if we look at
Yeah.
last year, what we had,
Yep.
and then what do we have this year?
Yep.
Yes,
Can
go
we
ahead.
add to that, like, what are the class sizes across the district? So in kindergarten, like, so they're all at 16? I mean.
Just
okay.
16, 17.
Okay.
I mean, when last I checked. So I,
Okay, yeah, I mean, I'd like
They'll
to
be
see
up
what
there.
those kindergarten numbers look like as
Yeah.
well. To Sue's point, if they are 20,
Yep.
then we need to be looking at what is it we can do. In a classroom,
Sure.
especially those lower level, lower grades K1, and we know there are a lot of needs within those classrooms now. And so I think that that's important.
sure. And then I think it will help to see the para numbers in the comparison to last year. And I'll give you some better
And if last
understanding.
year the numbers are down to 16, it's great.
And then maybe if we could also get an idea of, you know, the number of EL students, number of special ed students, number of behavioral students, I guess I'll call them, and kind of looking at the whole classroom. We don't have to do it by teacher, but just in general, like what's the kindergarten? What's the makeup of the
So you
population?
mean actually like by the study school? You want my study numbers by the school?
Well, I
used to
think
do
you have
that.
sped numbers. I think we have enough information. I don't, maybe you guys do. I'm more asking about the gen ed, the
Yeah, I think
positions that we asked for.
Trying to see like, what is Mrs. Jones's, and that's just me, she's not a kindergarten, just, but what does Mrs. Jones kindergarten look like? She has 17 kids, 20% are special ed, maybe there's one para in that room, and then there's 5 ELO kids. You know, just to give us a better understanding. So 17 can be many different things, I think is the concern. 17 kids that come without any disabilities is a lot different than 17 kids that have varying levels.
I could look to see what I can provide without breaking any confidentiality.
Yeah, no, we're not looking for that.
But I can look to
Just,
see.
just to finish your point, it doesn't stop at K3.
Oh, right.
I think that to know that, for instance, the middle school, the high school, which classrooms have an inordinate number of special ed kids and don't have any support for the teacher. I think that would be important information.
But that is reflected by the contract.
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah, that's not the
all
issue.
covered by the contract.
Then we'd be in
Percentage-wise.
violation.
No, the contract, we turned that down in the contract. We cannot limit the number of special ed kids in a class.
Yeah, so it won't go over the 50%. And whenever they start getting close to that, the guidance counselors immediately let the supervisors know. The middle and the high school supervisors are looking to adjust schedules because really across the state, it's 50%, not above.
We will allow a class to have 49% special ed kids if it's supposed to be a regular ed classroom.
If we have to.
But that,
And I don't think it happens.
I was gonna say,
I
so
mean-
we used to have the 33%. And that's been our guide, and that's been our guide all along. And people are trying to be very conscientious in terms of what they do with scheduling. So we can bring back as much information, like Laura said, without disclosing students' disabilities or identifying kids.
And I think just so that from the board's perspective, we want to provide the supports that we need in the schools to be successful, right? And then when we're looking at these multi-tiered things, you know, possibly not enough support, not anyone's fault. It's just, we want to make sure that we're able to staff accordingly. And when we have 53% fill rate, we then also have subs going in here with these classes with varying issues.
And just so you know too, that when we do this data and we're looking at the needs of the schools, we're looking academically and behaviorally, and it's not just special ed, it's across the board. So I can tell you how many special ed kids are in a classroom, that might be the best behaved classroom in the district. So just knowing the number of students with IEPs doesn't necessarily tell you anything, which is why we're looking so carefully at all the data and what do we have to put in place for all kids. So just so you're aware that's going on.
Yeah, no, I know there's a lot involved.
Do we let classroom teachers know which kids have IEPs?
Yes,
So every classroom teacher knows which of his or her students have IEPs and what those IEPs say.
yes, because
It's
they have
available to
mandated
teachers.
accommodations they need to be making.
So no teacher could say, I didn't know, I don't know how many of my students are in special ed.
Correct. And we used to be able to get it directly right out of Frontline, now with CT sets. Here's a glitch, so we told the special ed teachers they have to provide paper copies of the documents until the glitch is fixed, but yes.
Available to the,
They
Mainstream
presented
teachers.
to the classroom, so if this high school math teacher has these students in their algebra class that have IEPs, they need to be notified, so if there are accommodations that they need to put in place, they know what they need to do.
so every teacher who has special ed kids, kids with IEPs and any other plan
Yeah.
has given to them a paper copy of that IEP.
It was always electronic, but this year they were told to
And
provide paper.
suppose we find a teacher that doesn't have.
Then they need to ask the special ed supervisor or whatever special ed teacher was working with them,
Okay.
okay?
So taking IEPs, I mean, besides those, there are kids who just have problems. Is it possible, because I think in the last 5 years I've been on, there've been stories of classrooms out of control. Not blaming special ed kids because some of them are relatives. But, yeah, but is there a way for us to provide or allocate resources that may be needed? They not necessarily your shoulders, maybe it's them, to get the appropriate staffing level if it's needed. How do we determine, I guess, what kind of staffing would be needed to arrest those kinds of issues?
So, right, but before that, and I had mentioned this on Monday evening, and Laura was alluding to it tonight. We have established a behavior meeting every single month with all the levels so that we can talk about those very issues. And then I can present to the board what those needs are, because we have more support than we've ever had before. We have behaviorists, and we have registered behavior techs, and we have behavior intern, and we have all kinds of supports. We have supports from the community. We have supports on our own staff that are traditional supports. So all of that comes together to meet the needs of our students. But still, we are looking at the data in terms of behavioral infractions and how we're approaching it. What are we doing and what's successful and what's not? And that's why we continue to have that conversation. I meet weekly with the middle school and high school principal for that very reason. I meet with the whole entire team once a month so that we can talk about those issues. That I could tell you at our administrative retreat, that was a major focus and will continue to be so.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's the public, letting the public know that issues in the past 3 or 4 years are being addressed. I'm working hard so that people don't hear about one kid in the classroom, 4 kids in the hallway, and losing a full class, losing 25 minutes of learning time because we don't have control this. Not last year. That COVID, 5 years ago, I was hearing that more often than I am now, but I haven't heard it this year.
Right, I think we are moving toward a much better trend overall in so many different ways, but we will continue to give you updates.
Yes.
Yeah, just, that just got brought up. Follow up on this, and yeah, my recollection is that focused on A1, not because the other grades didn't need things, but because there was a limited amount of resources, and the map kind of looked like it would work out with the number of classes that there could be maybe per add to every class at the K1. And so if that is not what is happening, I'm not sure why. I mean, I'll be interested to see the data as far as and how we ended up with 16 or 17 kids in all of our K1 classes versus what we had expected to have. That's
that's different, but maybe we need those positions at, grades 2 and 3. Instead, it certainly wasn't that K1 for these grades. We did just based on the resources available, decided to focus on those. So just in response to that, to reiterate what Kim was saying, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I'm just gonna say,
It's,
I just want the board to be realistic. We had 7 vacancies in September 1st. You can see that we still continue to get resignations. We are getting resignations for these non-certified positions quicker than we can fill them. We could post 50 paraprofessional positions. We will not find the people out there right now. So, well, I recognize that we want to support the classes, all of that, but I would rather try to invest the money in a way that might actually help support, that we might be able to actually use and do it versus trying to add more staff. Because you could throw a lot of staff at a problem, but that's not necessarily going to fix the problem. There are other ways, as Sue mentioned, resources and things that you can put in place that might help support the problem. So I want to be thoughtful because, like I said, we're in a national teacher shortage of epic proportions, like we have never seen in my 20 years of doing this. Same thing with the non-certified staff. Like every district is seeing this right now. We are in Litchfield County, so we are struggling really hard to find and source qualified candidates to come here and do the work. And I think, we've worked really hard to do that.
Kim, no one is doubting, nobody's questioning
No, but what I'm
how
saying
hard
is
you
I
guys
just-
work to do that. The issue is we discussed adding
Right.
33 positions. We just want to know where they are. And if they aren't being filled, where did the money go for those positions?
No, I
That's
understand
all
that.
we're asking. But you guys did a great job filling these positions. I'm not questioning that at all. I just want to know what we talked about at budget, because we're now starting budget for next year, next month, right? November, December. So we still haven't gotten an answer. And Scott, maybe you can take a look at it for us, not to put you on the spot, but take a look for our next budget meeting. We didn't get any
Sure,
money
I
from the
understand.
city, again, thank you very much, but maybe next year we will. But we did find a way to try to make do with what we have and Ed move some numbers around. So it's just, what are we doing with that money in those positions?
right, and I
And
think
Ken-
ultimately at that end, it was at 33. I think that you proposed that, right, we got down to 10 on if it were para versus if it were teachers.
Right, but still, there were 33, there were positions there. Just the question is, it was part of the budget, we talked about it, put a lot of time into it, where are they, where's the money, that's it. If they're vacant, they're vacant. I'm not suggesting they have to be filled right now, if we can't fill them, we can't fill them. But at least we'd like to know,
Right.
are they still available? That's all.
Yeah, and the last budget conversation that Ed had brought up was that we were not gonna do the paras for the reason that we talked about, the rotation between this,
Right.
that we were gonna look at other supports, and then I think.
But
That's
no,
also-
because we still have 10 other grades that could use supports. Have we looked at the we're focusing on K-1, what about 2 through 12? And to John's point, I think you had mentioned that we should look at every class, every grade. Because just because kindergarten is at 16, that doesn't mean the rest of the district is at a reasonable number per class.
No, but the reason, I mean, is the paras, because we said if we posted 10 general ed paras, that would decimate special ed. And that was the concern. So we didn't want to do 10 general ed
Right, okay.
paras because that would create a huge compliance issue for Laura and her team. So that was the reason why we were looking at a different kind of position to be able to support that. And
But
that was the
again, do we
conversation
have
Ed brought at.
So then where are those positions? What are they filled? Are they not? Where are we at with that? It's same question.
Yeah.
Contractor, according to your employee contract, if they post 10 positions and you're saying that it would decimate another department because they would all go there, we don't have to accept them if they want to take that position, correct?
Depends.
Contract may make us.
They will? Okay.
It may or may not.
It may or may not, but I'm saying it's possible that it will, and this is what we're hearing. We'll have to.
Okay.
You have to prove that they weren't qualified for the job, and I think we have some excellent employees who I think we would have a very difficult time saying that they wouldn't be qualified for the job.
In an order of time to keep this meeting moving, for me, what I understand is there's some confusion is what we agreed to on in a budget meeting and getting paras to fill the needs for the teachers in the school. I mean, that's our primary focus. What do you guys need? We're not here to make your job harder. We're here to advocate and help you. Would an org chart something, I mean, these numbers are great, but every month it's kind of hard to figure out what's filled, what's not filled, what was last time. Can we get an org chart that identifies the class, number of students, number of sped, so that we can see in that class what the needs are as far as teachers and parents and everything else?
Yeah, so part of the problem is it's constantly a moving target, right? So that's
Well,
why we
this is
tend to look at.
What we get every month is a constant moving target anyway.
No, but this is teachers, it's not all the student movement too.
Well, the teachers and the support staff is dependent upon the number of students.
We have to track that, somebody's tracking that, right? You have
So
to,
The board
we're always
tends to look at that once a year through budget.
so we'll be seeing it soon.
Yeah,
But
but I think.
If
that
we build
can
it now and then it adjusts, it'll help us during the budget time, because then if it's built now and we adjust it every month, then at budget time, we can see factual information and make educated decisions on what we need to do instead of trying to throw something together at last minute.
I think I think it's a lot more complicated than that, because we also have the transient moves between schools. Like, there's a lot of movement, not just people moving in, people moving out. So I think we have to
You're-
weigh
no,
out the amount of work it would take central office.
No,
to
you're thinking
pull
of it
that together.
backwards. I'm not asking to tell us where the staff is. I'm asking to what is required at the classroom level. We have X number of students in this room. What do they need for support?
Right, but what I'm saying, the number of students isn't the same.
It's constantly changing.
It's constantly changing.
But it's 15, 16, 17, it's somewhere in there, right? If we see an anomaly of 22, then we know, okay, that's something wrong.
The
never
anomaly
know.
is 15 or
I
16.
think part of the problem is as kids move, who those kids are also impacts what that classroom needs. So I think that's what makes it really complicated. So I think it's just a matter of how much time do we want them spending on this? Or is the board looking up here to say, if we have this number of kids, one teacher, this many special ed kids with this much support, this many behavioral kids, this many ESL kids, what's an appropriate staffing?
Spend the time now, or we're gonna spend another 40 minutes like we are tonight, talking about something that we're not sure of.
No, I think we set the parameter, like you said, like John said, what are we allowed to have? At minimum or maximum, and then I guess we set a standard when we go to budget as to what we can live with. What we can afford. I say you do because Laura has special ed, but you know, it's not just that. We don't know that, so whatever.
Right, but you have to remember that each admin team is working on this at each site with their, 31, 75, how many ever classes, and that breakdown to keep those parameters in check all the time. Because as you're saying, it's a moving target. And so students will qualify for special ed, or students will come in and they have EL needs, or will get a new 504. So that composition is constantly changing and adjusting. I'm just thinking, if you're saying every class within the district, I mean, that's what admins do all the time. So they check it, they do the balances, they make sure that they have those supports. In addition to those supports, or the supports that I talked about before, that really address some of the behavioral concerns that we talked about. We have BCBAs, we have registered behavior techs, we have social workers, we have guidance counselors. We have folks from the community who are also coming in and counseling our students. So we're very fortunate to have all of those pieces that we've invested. But we're checking on our return in investment, and that's what we're presenting at budget. But we don't have like a master list that breaks all of this down district-wide, because that's what happens at each
You have it at the
individual
building
site.
level.
Correct.
Right, so even at the building level, that's 6 reports to look at. Well, not down to the level of the students, but just to have an idea, and maybe, I guess we could table this till budget,
Well, I think
because
let's
it comes
see-
down to budget,
Let's get the information next.
so we can table
And
it till
then we
budget.
can start with that. and see
Sure.
what's
So we
going
can
on.
get out of here tonight.
And we've come a long way with special ed, and we have a great team. I think, in my opinion, the two zoos have chosen to attack, or at least to address this, we do it with money, so I think when we see the results, as you present them, we'll know how it's working. I think, as she said about the budget, maybe you can give us an idea of what kind of success we're seeing. And then, do we need any more, or do we have enough, or need more, what do we need? It's not the way expression whether we have enough money, or whether you have enough resources. I think if you need more, we'll give it to you, but you're right, we shouldn't be wasting it either.
Right.
We have to realize it as well. Make the program allocations.
So we'll get, next month, is that feasible to pull that together, just a comparison of last year to this year?
For the parents, yes.
For
Yeah.
the paras, all the support people, behavior techs,
Right. Everybody that's on this list, right?
the 1579.
Yeah, yes, with you, yes, got it.
And that way we can see what the differences are and then decide from there. Any other questions on this? Okay, so we'll more to come on that. I do have one other question though. On the vacancies, October 2022, it says high school all ed coordinator. And then in parentheses, it says Southwest or counselor. Social. Oh, I was thinking Southwest. Okay. So that is the high school position.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. All right. Everybody all set till we get more information on this? All right. Community wellness. So there was a lot of questions regarding community wellness, medical and behavioral support. So maybe if we can start with what this is and then open the floor to questions once we get an understanding of what is done.
So we have wonderful partners in our community. We are truly blessed. So one of those partners is Community Health and Wellness. And for at least the last 7 years, if not more, the Community Health and Wellness has provided counselors, particularly at our middle school and high school, to support our students. So we were very lucky and in a good situation because the Community Health and Wellness, even though a lot of folks throughout the state and throughout the nation didn't have enough counselors who they could pull in, we had already built up a relationship with Community Health and Wellness. And they, even during COVID, we had supports for our students for behavioral health at the high school and at the middle school. And we knew, given this whole situation and what we were seeing with our students, that we really needed to offer supports at the elementaries as well. So December 15th of last year, I did a presentation. I just talked about all our community partners and how wonderful they are, but I included the Community Health and Wellness program and how it was expanding, the behavioral health program, so that we were offering more counselors, particularly at the middle school and high school, that we were offering services even at the elementary schools. So that was very helpful. So that our social workers, our guidance counselors who were already overtaxed in terms of really trying to provide these supports, they had counseling support services for whatever was going on, because you have to remember during COVID, family members were dying. So there was grief counseling and there were just transitions and going through that whole process of remote and not remote and hybrid and all the changes in kids' lives. And now all the issues that are just the repercussions of COVID that we're still trying to deal with. Yes, the behaviors are better, but we are still seeing that need for sure. So we are very fortunate to have that in place. So next Wednesday, Community Health and Wellness is actually presenting at our school improvement meeting. And so they can give you the exact numbers. But as we were speaking with them this week, just checking in on the behavioral health supports, we have 110 to 120 students district-wide who are availing themselves of this behavioral health and the counselors. Every single time any student is working with anyone from Community Health and Wellness, there has to be parent permission. They have to have parent permission or they cannot move forward. Nothing happens, no one ever talks to a student, interacts with a student unless there is permission. And that's for the behavioral health as well as for the medical. So the other piece that was added this year in partnership was the whole idea of medical health support. And the reason why we really felt this was important is because there is a segment of our population that really doesn't have a primary medical, a primary care physician. They don't have somebody who they go to. We are still required to have our students have their physicals. About 10 to 20 families have availed themselves of these services this year. It's a very small number, but we still have a number where this is a service to those families so that they can have the physicals done. They can also have the required vaccinations done. This has nothing to do with COVID. It has nothing to do with COVID testing or anything else. But it really allows students to be able to stay in school because these are required. Physicals are required, required vaccinations are required so that students can come to school. So it allows our students whose families may not have transportation, may not have a primary care physician, to really have that and participate in school. And it's really an equity issue, which is why we had reached out and said to Community Health and Wellness, and they said, hey, we've got these services. And we said, we've got the need. How can we link arms and move forward? So that's really how it occurred.
Clarifying question. So when do they get the services?
Okay, so for the counseling support, predominantly they get the services during, it's very easy at the secondary, right? Because it's during their study hall, it's during ARC. However, students who are in crisis may have their meetings during, we try and do it during a non-academic period. But if they need to be seen right away, especially their initial, maybe anytime during that day. But then remembering that there's a rotating schedule as well. So it's not going to be the same period either at the secondary because they have rotating schedules. Elementary, then trying to work around time where it's not core instruction.
So what about the medical component? When would they get that?
It's such a small number. I think they're still trying to work around that schedule as well. Yeah, right. And not even for a full day at some of our smaller schools. She's only there for 4 hours. And if she doesn't have permission slips, then she's working on her own work.
Two questions. One, what would a non-academic activity be?
It's all like an elective.
Okay, so the electives aren't considered academic.
They're not
We're
considered,
wasting kids' time. is
I'll
what I'm
say
saying.
core academics. How's that? Core academics, which would be considered math,
Okay.
science, social studies, English.
Okay, so some teachers, like the WIN teachers at the middle school, might have kids pulled out for something like
They
this.
may.
Okay, so what they're doing isn't important enough, not that.
Everything's important, John, but when you cannot have a child that's available for learning because someone's died in their family, or they're going through a crisis, or they're feeling suicidal, or they're feeling like they have to use a substance to get through the day, then those students really need to be seen because they're not learning a lot during that day anyway.
Malpractice. Presumably their licenses cover that and we are held harmless just because of space.
That's why we have the permission, absolutely.
Okay.
It doesn't say that though, the permission, so that we're held harmless.
Well, that's what I attend, Gary.
It wouldn't be in the
and
permission
Sue,
slip, it wouldn't in our contract.
Which we can see.
Gary
I
first.
don't
and Sue.
doubt that the kids need, lots of kids need time out. I think the problem is it was rolled out in a fashion, especially by the community wellness, and there's a lot of things that as a board, we may not think we should be providing. And I personally don't think, I mean, children are sick, they should be seen to the doctor. In my opinion, after school, weekends, or stay out of school for a second, they don't see the doctor. If we have to provide those kinds of services, like schools used to do, then granted, some children, but I don't. The problem with these kinds of programs is, I'm not saying we don't need some of these things, is they grow. And we spend so much time, it seems, away from the education process. Every year it becomes less and less for children. And there are many studies that show exactly how much time on average we lose. That this, in my mind, not knowing exactly what they're providing, and I don't think any of the board knows what they're providing, except what they provide on Facebook, which isn't, all of those things I have a problem with, not necessarily. Them seeing a doctor or getting vaccinated, we used to do that all the time. Or the physicals, I don't have a problem with that either. But I think the board should at least have, maybe, if I don't go to this, so maybe that's gonna be part of the discussion. So maybe the board can have some say in it, and I think they should, as to what's going to be allowed, because we agree with their proposal. Health education. I don't have the list there, I saw it, I looked at the office, but
We have it.
I mean, and read their document that the kids have to sign, it says parents are not necessarily notified. It says adolescents, while encouraged to communicate with the parents, can receive confidential services for sexually transmitted disease testing, pregnancy testing, family planning counseling, and substance abuse counseling.
Where are you?
This is on their authorization.
On their sheet that the parents have to download and sign and,
That's the patient, not the parent.
This is the patient.
well, it's the parent guardian signature.
No, it's the patient.
No, at the bottom, it says guardian consent, if applicable.
If applicable, but they don't
So
have to
most, yeah, under the age of 18, they have to.
read the bottom
Oh,
bullet.
this is adolescents. 18 years and
Older, I give consent for HIV testing,
They don't make it very clear. I think this all should be vetted.
and the adolescent has to agree.
I got it.
Sorry.
Vaccinations, but I mean, it says adolescents. This should be vetted in some way. It's all I'm saying is I think we should go through line by line. And talk about individual therapy. We can't do it. Individual therapy. Behavioral therapy. Health evaluation and intake. Family therapy. But these are all things during the school day that I don't think we, as an education system, should be providing for the school day. Granted, there are kids, if they're suicidal, absolutely. But what services can be offered and what can be not accepted as service? I think we need to know that. Prescriptions, health education, I don't know why that would be out there. We have a health education program. Physical tips, yes. Diagnosis and treatment, probably, I don't know what that means, but chronic disease management. That sounds quite onerous on the part of what a student can accept. And this is what they're talking about, right, in school services. So I think we need to drill down as to what we can accept and how much, what we can allocate the student to if they have a real problem, or if there is a crisis or vaccination, absolutely, and physical. But there's a lot of things they're talking about here that a lot of, and especially if the parents aren't signing off, that can slip through the cracks and cause lots of problems for us. And we may not agree with what they're offering in some cases.
I mean, it even says they can prescribe and administer medication.
Hold on, let's go. Sue, Ellen,
Yeah,
Jeff,
go ahead.
Ben.
We need to see the contract that we're signing with them, you know, what we agreed to that they would provide.
Unless you but legally, what our obligations are, what can we be held responsible?
But it could be everything that you're saying, that we didn't agree in a contract that that's what we agreed to. Do you know what I mean? We have to see what the contract says.
Right, and I think it will help in the SIP meeting to really hear from these folks so that you totally understand what they're providing within the school and what they provide at their facility. We're not providing family counseling within the school day.
It
We
says
are-
that school services.
Yeah,
But we are not.
That's
this is what they got
That's
though.
the issue.
This is what they received.
Yes, that's why.
So that's, right.
Some confusion, so we can clear up the confusion.
Jeff.
I didn't know. So that's right.
Yeah, I look forward to the conversation at SIP. I have a lot of questions about the grant that funded this, about when that grant was applied for, and about what kind of permissions we gave to them to sign on to this, because this grant was received from the Biden administration in September of 2021. Community Health Development Center for $200,000 to operate this program for here and for and from my quick reading, it looks to me when I looked at the notice of funding opportunity that the grant process could not have moved forward unless they had received a letter of permission from our district. And so some of these things we're talking about, like contracts and stuff, they have already received the grant. to do these services, to provide these services for our students during our school day, and we don't even know what the impact is. And I'm very concerned about the funding aspect of it and how we got to this place. And I did go back and watch the meeting from December 15th, and I specifically asked in that meeting multiple times, what is this about? Are we talking about prescriptions? And the thing that came to my mind was birth control, but there are many other prescriptions that are given to teens that are potentially damaging, that are very
Controversial.
Yes, controversial and politically motivated. And so I specifically asked at that meeting if there was going to be prescriptions. And what I was told was, this is about physicals, this is about vaccinations, only the required vaccinations, only older kids are coming from other countries, things like that. Okay, but the flyer that is out there specifically says on it, in-school services provided, medical care, chronic disease management, diagnosis and treatment, physical exams, health education, prescriptions, and referrals. Those are the things under there. And so that far exceeds the scope of what we were told in December this would consist of. And my concern is that this ship has already sailed and we were somehow not part of it. And I am extremely interested to hear what they have to say. But I'm also concerned that there are now financial obligations that this other organization has that our board may not support. And for them to be considered, per what I read online, what's available, to be considered for this grant again, they have to be able to demonstrate that they are reaching an increased number of students in this program. So they have their own measures for success that they're going to have to report back to the federal government on. Do we know what those are? I mean, what was their project narrative? How did they get this extremely competitive grant for $200,000 to implement this program? What did they promise the federal government that they're going to do for our kids the next year? Do we even know? I'm sure somebody knows, but I don't think anybody on the board knows. So I have a lot of questions about the money aspect of it, the timeline of this, and how on earth what is being put out to the community is so different than what was explained to the board. And as far as the permission form, I'll save those questions for Wednesday. But the permission form is very concerning, and it is not at all clear from this form if you just decide you have to bring a new form every single time your child receives services, or if you bring a form once and it stays on file, and then that child is approved for services. So those are the types of questions I plan to ask them, and I'm sure I'm
I'd like to suggest something, see how everybody feels about it, just because I think there's multiple levels of issues here. There's some that involve the board as a whole, and then there's other ones that are questions for community health.
Right.
So would people be opposed to us meeting prior to the SIG meeting that night to be able to look at the contract? Because I don't really think, so the superintendent has authority to sign on behalf of the board. So that's not really a community health issue, the contractual part of it. I think that that's something that the board should view the contract separate from the meeting with community health. So if the board is available and you guys are available, maybe we can meet prior to, that night, just so everybody can come early and look at the contract, see what permission forms we're using, and then ask community health the questions we have for them regarding the program. But I think there's two subsets of issues here. So
Has a contract been entered into with community health?
We do have a contract.
So regardless of what our position is, it doesn't matter because we already have a contract with them, right?
but let's look at the contract, and if we could look at the grant. I don't know if it's available to us or not, but I think
The grant should be
helpful for us
online.
to see the grant and the contract.
Right.
Well, and I would like to see, so the grant says in it that the HRSA will consider any application that does not include a letter of support from each school and or school district in which service expansion is proposed to be non-responsive and will not consider it for funding. So they would have had to have a letter, based on my reading of this. But it looks to me like they would have had to have a letter from us, from our district, saying that we want this prior to even having the grant application considered. So I think we should see that letter, and I think we should see everything that they submitted, that the Community Health and Wellness Foundation submitted to the federal government, project narrative, budget, et cetera. Because all of that, they're gonna be in default with this if they don't meet all of those guidelines. So they have committed themselves to be able to manifesting a program that they have designed in our district with us.
Was it a joint grant or was it a grant just for community?
The grants for community.
Okay. So they don't have to turn that over unless it's a joint grant. And
But
we
it
can
should be
request
online,
it.
right? A copy of the application?
Not necessarily. I mean, I don't know, they may turn it over. I don't know.
I'm sure it's a public document.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, we could otherwise.
Yeah, that's what I mean, it's a public
Yeah.
document.
John?
I assume we'll get these in enough time in advance so that we can actually read them and think about it. Getting them that night will do us a lot less good than getting them Thursday or Friday.
21.
Okay, so is 5 o'clock good for everyone? Because we need to make sure we can have a quorum
What is this?
next Wednesday.
You have a facilities.
No,
Second.
no, I'm sorry. Is next Wednesday still?
Yeah.
Yep.
I just add to this, again, I think whatever care that the students can get, and the families can get at a clinic is wonderful. And I can tell you about some people in Massachusetts who are going through a lawsuit right now because these same kinds of services, behavioral services, were offered without the parents knowing. And, the girl was asked questions about transitioning to not being a boy when she had no desire to be a boy. But the social worker and one of the therapists had gotten into questions with the young child without the parents' consent. And the parents are now in the middle of fighting this. We don't know what it will bring to us, but there are certain things I think is where we're obligated, or we can go along with providing. Like I said, physicals, vaccinations, and Torrington is a very conservative community. If you tell anybody in Torrington they're going to get free medical services, they're going to like it. But when you start digging into what those services will entail and how the parents may be left out, the types of services that they're providing, I believe we have a very religious community. You're going to have a real problem. We're going to have a problem. If anybody digs into the details, and maybe the details don't include this, I am certain some of these issues will be brought up that our community may or may not agree with. And we're obligated. For those of us who live here, I know what the community thinks. I mean, I do. I know how it feels. And we're obligated to provide for this religious conservative community what they feel this our schools should offer, which is, I know, education, and let us take care of our kids. Granted, there are exceptions. But whether they're Ecuadorian or they're Roman or Italian or Polish or whatever, that's how they think. I think 70% of the population vote for. So
Well, let's
these,
get
just saying,
the
these are the things,
information.
I'm not mad. What I'm saying is, we have to take into consideration as well, what we think politically. And make sure we have the answers. The answer, because I already had people asking what's going on, what are they trying to do? So the state, mainly always goes back to what's the state forces.
So could we also find out, is there any services that a student can obtain without parental consent? Or just everything required?
And we had several conversations before all of this, so we can share that all on Wednesday, the whole process.
I think all services, according to this, require parental consent. But there's also the caveat that, and I think this applies to any doctor's office, and we might have talked about this before, but you know, when kids are going to see their doctor, they're getting a ride from the parents are there. If you're seeing this doctor and the same terms apply where it's not, the provider doesn't have to disclose any of this information that's in this
It says if the unlisted agrees, they don't have to. It says-
They don't have to agree, therefore the provider doesn't have to tell the parent what they're treating their child for.
Well, let's find out, because I'm not sure if they're a minor, if that's applicable.
It says it right here. It says it in their.
But is that the agreement?
This is from, this is where you click on the Community Health and Wellness website, Torrington Public Schools, you click on this is the form our parents are supposed to download and sign.
So
And
you
it
get
says that.
clarification on that and bring it to us next week, of what forms we're using.
I think it was a mistake.
This is.
So the public knows it's a mistake.
Okay.
It's fine.
Okay, so this because we need to have a majority to have a meeting, so we can make it at 5:00 next Wednesday.
Can you cut it out?
Yeah, yep.
Sure.
Killing me, but yeah.
So
You were
5:00.
warned, Glenn, you were warned.
We
Advance
were
notice.
all warned.
And just, I am gonna check, because of the contract negotiation piece, that part might be an executive session. Let's redo the agenda for that. Just plan on being there.
Just a question about why that would be an executive session if it's already been signed and it's a public document.
Right.
I just have to check. I just want to check.
Okay.
Fidget. Oh, no.
No, touring board.
Torringford, that's right, I have to go visit Torringford in fact sometime between now and then.
Okay, so Torringford School, 5:00. Monthly financials.
Hi, Scott.
Thank you. So first I want to thank the board for approving the ban.
Did you get it?
Oh, no, but
Oh.
a couple things. They did give an official PO. I do think it's gonna pay dividends going forward. And I did call them and ask them, even though we know it's such a far lead time, I said, I am gonna call you every week and harass you a little bit to see if I can get on some kind of wait list. And I was told we're lucky we're even on a list, so I will call them and harass them from time to time. So I just wanted to thank the board for that. So we officially have a PO with them. As you mentioned, we're entering into budget time for next year. So we'll be sending all that information out to the schools, and we'll be starting that process soon. As far as the monthly financials, we did go over these with the committee. There's nothing at this juncture that I would point out, other than we do, it's basically the same as it was last month. We explained on the other purchase services, that's the tuition line for the expulsion students, so. And we've explained that, and talked about that, so. This is the 30,000 foot level. Does anybody have any additional questions? Last week, I think, happy to answer that, but other than that, nothing. All the schools are ordering their supplies, we're all HPOs, so I'm looking at it, it's across the desk. Question. So.
This is probably one of the trickiest, more about just concern people raised about buses we use for athletics, some of them, I don't know, seats. Do we have any money to rent a larger bus? I know some kids just said, I made a list, I brought it up. Some nice chests.
Yeah,
Well, we talked about that.
The difficulty is getting the buses now, because it's the same problem that Scott said he was having with just even getting that van. It's just hard. It's hard to get regular cars, right? Then we have the dilemma with trucks, with the van. Yeah.
So it's an extra bus? Do they send 2 buses now?
We only have 1 bus for our athletic bus.
Right. I mean, we can ask All-Star to reach out to them.
Yeah.
We have 2 white ones. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I think it's a- yeah, I said it.
Sport, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, because it's a lot more students.
Definitely give them a call.
Ellen,
I know, and
another school district that has a bus. So.
Oh, maybe we can share.
I mean, so it's, can we, yeah, so perhaps we can chat and maybe share.
I'll provide the bus or the driver.
But yeah,
So
that may be a good possibility.
There's actually a yellow school bus for sale on Craigslist right now. Is there? Don't even think about buying it. You don't need a bus. Speaking of buses though, are we starting up after school busing again? Or is that a shortage, bus shortage, driver shortage, all of that?
No, we do have after school. We will do an after school program again.
Oh, okay.
For middle school and high school will be 3 days. And then
Next week? I hope that after the late bus is over, right?
Yeah, we're waiting to get staff.
yeah.
Oh.
The support, yeah.
On that, so we'll get. The expectation is that no one is sitting. We're on a
that
cooler.
is just.
Any other questions? All right, policy number 4083, employee code of ethics.
Policy that we didn't have. Walk through some added,
I thought you were telling me something.
Oh, no.
Ellen said it, yeah. Okay, anybody have any questions on that one?
I do. Does that change what we had to sign with the city? Our code of ethics is with the city, right?
For the
We have to
Board of
sign
Ed?
for the
for the
board.
Board of Ed,
Yeah.
this is for employees.
So this
for
won't,
employees.
this won't affect us at all.
No,
This will be for employees.
right. I'm not employed by-
Hard to keep track.
Contrary to that big raise you got last year.
Right. That didn't come from the district?
Any other questions on the policy number 4083?
Kim, do you have a
Oh, I'm sorry.
question?
I was just gonna add that there is a line item here that says all Torrington Board of Ed employees are responsible for the city of Torrington Code of Ethics still. So that's embedded in here as
Okay,
well.
so they have to be
And
both.
part of it, yes. So they
But we
do-
only do
yeah, we're-
one.
Yeah, we're gonna have one, but it encompasses that. So we left that in for that very
Oh,
reason, to make
perfect.
sure that that was part of
Covered.
that. Yes.
Thanks, yeah.
Questions, Glenn?
I know at policy meeting number 2, we were expressed some concern about the 2 words together, social emotional. That's remaining.
Whenever the policy committee decided.
We decided to
what-
keep it,
Where
yes.
we landed.
That's where it landed to bring forward.
So the board could then decide to make other changes, just procedurally. I'm not gonna push that any further. I still don't like the wording. But unless there's sort of that change. Unless other people share a concern. The policy committee did not share my concern on that.
I wasn't there. I think I'm gonna drag this out. I don't like it either, but I don't hate when we see things that are just, the language is used to match what might be old for the current, season, but once the board approved it,
So Gary, just so that you know. 'cause you
I wasn't at the meeting. so-
Right, you weren't there, so I'll just fill in. We added academic, that was, so this came directly from Shipman, this was their model policy. We added academic, and I think that was the conversation, right? Because originally it just said, well-being. Make the well-being of students, and I think it's.
Yeah.
We added
Right, we
academic.
added
Oh,
academic.
okay. And then my concern was, I don't like the term social emotional because that can mean different things to different people, and some of that is very specific in certain areas, and so we're just calling it part of the code of ethics for our staff to make the social and emotional well-being of students a fundamental value. What that may mean in different circumstances could mean different things to different people. I looked at it again after, and it is, I think there's a difference, the degree of difference between whether it's capitalized or not, as far as whether it's
referring to a specific curriculum versus a general term, I still don't like it. But there was no support from the other people at that change, so unless other.
I will very fond.
My social emotional well-being is my here's mom.
Well,
That's why I'm retired. But I mean, that, I don't. It's not
I understand
referring
what
to a
Justice is
program.
saying, but I do agree. It is viewed differently in other schools. It can't be something that,
And it needs something different.
because it's been made that way. Unfortunately. Yeah, so-
But I'm just saying.
So I guess, so does anyone, well, I guess when the motion comes up.
Yeah.
This will be the time to decide if there's a motion. Policy 5041, use of private technological devices by students.
Updated to my other class.
Just the wording and stuff on it. Oh, and the change to THS.
Questions on that one? Questions?
I agree.
Are you all set, Lynn, or did you have a question?
Not at this time, no.
Policy 5195, student parking privileges.
Policy, do we have?
Do we have enough parking for all of our seniors right now?
Campus. For those who qualify,
Well,
yes.
yeah.
Yep.
In excess, correct?
And then does it,
Yeah, when I talked with the secretary earlier in the week, she said we have 5 spaces left, but she knows that, and I know that when you come during the day, it looks like there's a lot of spaces, but those are for the transient, population that come and go. So I understand there's some frustration there. I'm also incredibly concerned, we've had this conversation before, about weather, about where we're plowing, where we're putting snow and all those things, because we're gonna lose some spaces. And after we get through the winter, if we can revisit and see what we've got. But right now, I think we have to hold status quo.
The lower parking, sorry. The lower part was paid strike, but I forgot why we changed that, but we had that extra parking down there, was that for those professionals coming and going?
That was gonna be all staging for contractors, I believe.
No, that we set aside.
No, we have some trans.
I thought it was for the,
They paid
park.
for it.
Someone for the harvest.
So that one down there is city for the park.
That's what I thought I read in
the.
the minutes
I
from
thought we talked about
building
really
committee.
using it. People coming out for the day. from other schools.
I think that's after, I think that's after
Forget
the
it,
whole,
forget it.
Gary.
Move on.
Gary, I think that was after everything is done. There'll be so many spaces.
Yes, I haven't been there. Sorry.
That was part of the
I'll shut up.
agreement, is that the city got
Right.
that number of spots in the parking lot
You're
is for the city.
All
That's
coming
it.
back to you now.
That's it.
Any other questions on student parking privileges?
We're gonna review this after the winter time, so in like April, May.
I will give you an update after we get through that winter piece, and then we'll see what we've got, what we have left. Because, I think then we'll have a better picture. This is the first year we've lived through it. I have no idea what the winter's gonna bring. I have no idea what space we're gonna have. It's all new.
And you know me,
I know
I
you'd
voice
be
my
asking
opinion
me.
and I mean no disrespect, correct? on more than one occasion, there's definitely more than 5 empty spaces in the student parking sections. So there's a lot more spaces than 5. The problem I have is there were parking permits. If we're gonna go by our policy, student parking permits will only be issued to students with valid driver's licenses. Well, there's parking permits that were issued to students that were getting their driver's permits, which then can obtain a driver's license to at least a minimum of 4 months. After that 4-month period, we all know you can't really drive by yourself for a while, correct? 4 months? You can't
You can
drive.
drive by yourself, you can't drive people.
So,
Right, you can't
no,
drive.
during those 4 months, you cannot drive by yourself. So if we're.
Oh, the permit time, you mean.
Correct. So again, holding off and
Yeah, both of us.
reserving
Right.
spots for someone that may potentially be getting a permit that won't be able to drive a car to school for a minimum of 4 months after they obtain their permit, I think is a little ridiculous.
So Glenn, just so you know, after you brought that up the first time, I called to the high school and spoke to our. We're sort of coordinating and controlling all of this. And I was assured that that was not. happening. So,
And I talked to them most recently this week to that same person.
Well, do they provide their driver's license as part of the process?
Yeah, they have.
Yes, they have to. We were told that there were, I don't know, 3 kids who were scheduled within the next couple of weeks at that time to take their driver's test, not to get a permit.
We should ask for a copy of this, you get a confirmation email that you're taking your driver's test.
But my assumption
They
is
should
that
ask for it.
that what was happening, but there was nothing about students who were just driving with a permit. So, I mean, I'll call again.
No, I'm not saying that students are driving with just a permit. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there's,
But they were not.
there's permits that are issued to students that can't yet drive a car by themselves.
So, and I was told absolutely not.
But people forget that these kids talk to each other and like, here's my permit, I don't have my license yet. That happens. That's where this is coming, it's not like you're hearing, it's, something is going on. Well, Brian
I
made
guess
that
it
report.
warrants another call, and we will certainly call again and just,
Do the students have to present their driver's license when they get a parking?
So they can't get one, so there were some held for people that are getting their permits, it sounds like.
Ask the secretary who's handling that. to no longer-
Not do that anymore? Okay, perfect. But they already have the permit?
Did they revoke their parking pass?
Can you respond
That's
to
right.
that?
What's that? I'm sorry.
So those that were issued a parking permit with, prior to them getting their driver's permit, were those revoked?
Nobody was issued one. There were some people that they were holding permits for, but they were not held.
Okay.
We issued those.
You
The
issued
people
those?
with driver's licenses.
Right.
Yes.
Driver's
He
permit.
stopped it.
Okay. So you're saying there's only 5 spots left?
According to the secretary who hands out parking permits.
This really goes to John, speaking of parking, so, that was the budget for snow removal,
Yes, we do every year. Yep.
but there'll be a lot more this year. I don't know what the snow will do.
Are you forecasting it, Gary?
No, I don't mean the
Let me
snowstorm.
know near your house.
I mean, we have less.
There's a lot of fat squirrels in there.
Just rewind the tape and strike whatever Gary just said about more snow this year. I have enough headaches, Gary.
Less area for snow storage.
Yes, right, and that's our concern, and I know John's working on that. Because it is certainly a concern, especially at the high school. Yes.
Back to the policy though. I mean, the policy basically kind of leaves this up to the administration of the high school, which is really where this should be. Because, it's not up to us to say Johnny has a permit, but he's not there every day. Maybe he doesn't drive every day, but he's still entitled to a spot.
Sure, if they have a license or,
Right.
they have a license,
So
period.
the goal was to have the seniors have the spots. And, there's more, I'm sure they'll open them up to other kids, but I also think it's unfair to think a senior who's getting their license and can drive in November should not be able to get a spot their last year. So I think there's multiple ways to look at it. So I think this policy provides the school with the flexibility to decide what to do if there's extra spots.
Careful, Brian, careful.
So, and hopefully we don't lose 30 spots when the first snow falls.
We're gonna lose a lot of spots in that parking lot.
That's why I think,
Right.
so they're gonna
That's a
remove this
concern.
now.
Right.
Or
No, it's gonna have to physically get it out of there because it'll cover every spot.
Yeah.
So I guess the question, so the policy presented really leaves it up to the high school administration to figure out what happens.
We can make the kids shovel their own place. Snow.
Health, fitness, it count as their PE credits.
Shoveling snow's good for
Part of the reason it makes sense for it to be left in the high school. Because the number of seniors every year is getting different. So the way you handle it, it makes sense in different ways based on that number. So you don't want to be changing the policy every year. For that.
All right. Any other question on student parking privileges? Okay, board chair voting. I put this on here because this came up in a building committee meeting and I want the board to decide where they want to go with this. So the board chair in Torrington has never voted. And the reason is because we have an even number of board members. Researched it. So the whole point of the board chair not voting is so that the board chair can break a tie if there's a tie. The concept is that the board chair is pushing initiatives. It shouldn't be voting on their initiatives. So historically, the board chair has never voted in Torrington. Since I've been on the board, as board chair, I've never voted. There was a question on whether I should be voting, so I want to put it to rest one way or the other so that there's no perception out there that I'm picking and choosing when I'm voting. I have never voted as board chair, ever. Now, if it's something that the board wishes that I do, then I think we should memorialize in our bylaws one way or the other. If the board thinks that the board chair should be participating in voting or not. The downside to not having someone that can break a tie is you could basically filibuster issues because if it's a tie 5-5, no one can break the tie. The only reason that item could ever come back up for a vote again is if someone that voted it down decided to then bring it back forward for another vote. So no one that voted in the affirmative could ever bring something back up to a vote. So that has always been the rationale. I went through the hard copy, electronic copies. I've talked to the 4 previous board chairs, all said they've never voted. The only time board chairs typically vote is when you have an odd number of board members, because then it doesn't matter, because you're never gonna have to break a tie. So if you had 9 board members, the board chair probably votes. It's even numbered boards that don't vote. So I'm putting it out there just because I don't want there to be any oddness surrounding whether I'm picking and choosing what to vote on. I have never voted since I have been board chair. So if the board wishes that the board chair vote, then I think we should memorialize that in our bylaws. Just so that it's clear.
So if that were the direction that the board wanted to go, wouldn't we have to look at having 11? I wouldn't suggest we go to 9 board members because that's a lot on us to only have 9. So
So
we have to
city
go to
charter dictates how many board members we have.
So we can't go
So the
higher.
Board of Ed can't decide on the number of board members. That's
Okay.
a charter issue, so.
Yeah, I wouldn't, if we put it to vote, I would vote no for you to vote. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think, like in general, I believe. It's not something that we agree. I think the instance where it came up. Completely reverse, we're barely in the pool, right? We have a quorum, but we're just like right there. And so I think it's instances like that, if you're part of the quorum, then I would feel differently in that instance. Personally, if you need to vote to get business done, then I would support it in that instance, but as a general rule, I agree.
So I personally would feel more comfortable one way or the other. Because I think, I don't wanna give any of us kind of like an approval to, well, Fiona, we don't have to worry about getting a quorum as much anymore because Fiona can now vote if there's not a quorum. You know, I think all of us have made a huge effort to get to meetings if we know there's not gonna be a quorum, to make that one more person show up. So I just think that rather than having exceptions built into our bylaws, it's either you vote or you don't. With 10 of us, I don't think you should vote. Unless we could have more people, but like you said, the charter board dictates that, so it's not up to us.
But I think part of the question is what then constitutes a quorum if the chairman doesn't ever vote?
She doesn't ever count
Do you
herself.
count?
She doesn't count herself, which she
And
says
that was
we
what
need
the
a
issue
quorum.
was at the building committee.
Okay,
We had a quorum of members, but not a quorum of
voting
voting
members.
members if the chairman wasn't going to vote. Now, the chairman could always abstain. That's a vote too.
Well, but then you'd have to abstain at every vote we have.
Well, so for me, I personally, as the sitting board chair, I am not picking and choosing. I don't want my integrity questioned
Right,
at
it's
any
all or nothing,
level.
right.
It's either I'm a voting member or I'm a non-voting member. I am not ever gonna give the appearance that I'm gonna chime in and vote when it's something that people would be construed that, oh, this is an issue that she wants. So I think it's either the board chair votes or the board chair does not vote. But
So, John or Fiona, so a quorum, is it 60%?
The quorum is more than half of the voting members. So in our case, it's 6 people. Even though, and this is another question,
So-
even though there are really only 9 of us now.
Right, so that's why we've been coming up short.
So, well, 6 people, if you have 10, it's 60%. 60% of 9 is still 5.4.
Except if we
60%
have
of
5,
10
we-
is 6,
it would
so
only
you
be-
still need 6 people either way.
We can't,
Only 5 would be.
should have.
It's 5.4,
We
you
should have
can't
six.
roll them down.
No, it would be 6, it would be the
I
5.
don't think, can we count the empty seat? We have
We
to count
can
the empty
because
seat,
it wasn't
right?
a vacancy, was it?
She was
So
just
the
on
question
leave.
was, if you have an actual vacancy,
Mhm.
we didn't have a vacancy. So it's different, it's not really. But the board hadn't received a resignation. So it's complicated.
Yeah, it was announced. Right.
I personally don't think that, I think it's just cleaner if our chair does not vote.
That doesn't constitute a legal.
And I would say
I
they
mean, I don't
did,
know what this is.
because somebody chose not to vote. You can always choose not, any of us could have chosen not to vote.
See, and that's, I think, where I have the issue is, I don't want there to be the perception that I'm choosing when to vote or when to not vote. I think I want it formalized. If
That you
I
don't
vote or I don't vote, because I don't want there to be any question of that. And that's a me thing, that's not a board thing, but I want to know one way or the other where the board stands, because I don't think this is a decision just for me.
Strong poll.
I'm fine. Leave it the minutes, I don't want to see it.
You know, if I get a vote.
You better watch what you wish for.
Robert's rules, the way I remember it and read it, distinguishes between 2 situations. One, where the chairman is an elected member on the same basis as everyone else, which is what
She
we
is.
have. The other is where the chair is automatically chair because of the position they hold or because they're appointed by someone else to be the chair. City council is an example of that. Eleanor doesn't vote except to break a tie because she's automatically, because she's the mayor. The chairman also of the city council. In Fiona's case, if she wants to, she can vote. Unless we have a bylaw that says that she can't unless there's a time.
It does, our bylaws don't say that you don't vote.
Our
I thought it
bylaws
said you
say
break a tie.
Robert's rules of order.
Right.
Oh, I thought I read somewhere that it breaks, that the chair will break a tie. Or maybe it's in a policy.
Maybe that means that the chair has to break a tie if there's.
So I think, it's something to think about, obviously.
Do we
It's
need to think about
operated
it?
for
Can we not just carry one thing over?
So is there any concern if we do only have the four, but we only have six, and one of those six is the chair? Is there any concern with 5 voting members making a decision not being in the later on? If
So-
yes, then we should reconsider it. If no, then we don't.
So here's my thought process on this, and I could be totally flawed, but my thought process is, we don't typically have quorum issues at the full board meetings. We have quorum issues at subcommittee meetings, and technically, subcommittees can't really vote. They can vote to push things to the full board, but on their own, a subcommittee can't make decisions on behalf of the full board.
Including the building committee, right? Because aren't you running into that at
Well, the
building
building
committee
committee
meetings?
is like a subcommittee.
It's an ad hoc.
Right, it's an
But the building committee meetings, I didn't know that you needed people, the last one, you may
Well, that
not
was
have
a
known that.
joint meeting, so that was a joint meeting with the building committee and the Board of Ed, which I think complicates it more because I vote on. the
You know what,
building
I
committee.
I may be skewing that because I can't vote at most of those anyway, the joint meetings. Well, I mean, I can
But you
abstain,
can
but,
still be a quorum, right?
right,
Do you know what I mean? You can
yeah,
still
right,
fulfill.
right, which I did, I didn't, I don't know why I wasn't at that meeting. As I said,
So I looked back and I don't see any issues at a full board. That special meeting was the only time we ran into an issue with a quorum of the full board, but typically the quorum issues happen at subcommittees. So. I mean, so think about it. We're not gonna make it, we don't have to make a decision tonight. I just think we should memorialize whatever the will of this board is relative to that. So that it's not a question, because as you all know, when you come on the board, how do you learn? You learn by talking to other people, which is maybe, right, wrong, and different, but there's no real training.
I mean, is that like, or something that we discussed? That question, I feel like it is, but maybe I'm wrong. As far as what counts, like, if you have 6 board members, elected board members, but you've got, one that doesn't vote because of the chair, and then another that abstains, does that count?
abstaining
that's-
counts,
Okay, I mean, that's kind
Yeah.
of just the crux of the question.
Right,
It
mine-
counts,
if
right?
I abstain from those, it does count, Mario told me that,
Yes, it does.
yeah,
because
but I had
Because
COVID.
you make up the quorum.
Right, right, so that's like that last meeting,
So then
I wasn't there, but I tried.
I mean, that's the question, right? Just because you don't want to be in a position where you can't. I mean, that would be, right, that would be. So if we get it there.
But then I think there's 2 sides to that, right? Because should 5 people be making the decision for 10 people? And I know the other side to that is people need to come to meetings. But so I think there's many ways you can look at that. Is it really a representation of what the board's will is if it's only half the people?
Is there, can we get in advance from Ed maybe, when there are going to be joint building and Board of Ed meetings? Like way in advance, do we have a schedule like that?
No, and I think that's part of the
That
problem.
is a huge problem,
Yeah, but it's the same.
especially for people that sit on other boards.
Right, it's
You know,
the
that's
building
hard.
committees. I think it's Kathy, I don't know if the touring for it's just, I think, the way the process works, right?
There wasn't, or that involvement wasn't as great. I don't, like it wasn't, there's this committee that was set up differently.
Yeah.
So I think that was different process.
Either that or we just make some kind of, I don't wanna say requirement that we all have to attend the building meetings going forward to have a quorum. I don't know if we wanna go to that extreme, but if it's becoming an issue.
Yeah, I think once we got through the contract.
Right. I think we had the joint meetings just to have it at the same time rather than calling another special meeting. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so that to
So
go
have the
to run it
building
by the
committee
board.
and then another special meeting, so I think, but these were motions that needed to be voted on by both
Okay.
and then sent to city council for them to vote the following Monday.
So this won't be going
So-
forward where we're running into it a lot.
Well, we still have contracts to approve,
Right.
so.
So it could, but
John, or Jess, sorry, that's Jess.
No, I was gonna say, can we insist that?
So the problem is, they get it, they did it, we have to accept it or reject it in a certain time period.
Right.
It's not, they're not setting the schedule, the project.
It's kind of like expulsions, you have 10 days, and so they have a time frame also. So that they have to, and they have meetings other than like once a month, they'll have an extra meeting to have these doing meetings. So it's not during their regular meetings, do you know what I mean?
Right,
So
and
they
then
have a
people who are
time.
building committed to that, and the rest of the board people. It's not because they
Right.
failed.
Yeah.
And so now it's all of a sudden people have to, and there used to be ways to tie things on to schedules. So that people don't have to. So I don't know, I mean, like, I'm sure.
Like maybe the
it's a
building
working
committee can-
Process,
Yeah,
yeah, it's, right, but maybe when they're setting their calendar, there are some parameters that we can put in place to make it, we don't have this issue. Because it's an attendance issue, because people aren't available, I think.
I mean, the problem too is they're working around when the next city council meeting is, right? So if you, so the city council is not gonna have special meetings, so I think if they don't get it on the city council agenda, then they don't make it. I mean, so the building committee doesn't know, we get told the same.
Right.
John,
No, just to say that it's a complication. Anytime we schedule a meeting on an off day, we're set for the fourth Wednesday of every month. Except for
Well,
sickness,
plus our
we don't have a
subcommittees, we
problem.
know, right.
But anytime you make another day, you just
Chaos.
makes it tough.
I mean, board can't look at it till building committee looks at it. Building committee meets on Thursday, city council meets on Monday. I mean, that I think is really where the rub is.
Right. Wednesday, if we don't have meetings. Joint meeting then, because
No,
we're all going on Wednesdays.
We are all.
Wednesday, we don't have meetings.
The problem though is the last meetings we had, they were working on the stuff for us up until 3 minutes before everybody walked in the room. You know, so I think it's tough and I think
They got last.
Yeah. timeline stuff.
Yeah.
But
We don't want
once
to
all
delay
this is in
building.
place, it's not gonna be as much. Just because you're trying to assign every contract that's for your project. So, but
Can we stay on task here? 'Cause I think we're a little off our agenda right now.
I wanted to add something to that, sorry, quickly, that hopefully when we fill our empty seat, we won't run into this issue as much, and I think as board members, we're sworn to this obligation, we have to attend meetings. So everybody should be at least at our regular board meeting. Everyone.
all right, so we'll bring the board chair voting back next month. It's just for everybody to start giving it some thought. All right, school calendar 23-24.
Okay, just to be quick, because we still don't have a lot of answers. We do have a hold on the application in the order for June 14th. However, to get more answers on like that April break, Oliver Wilcott, the state will not have their schedule for April break until April 2023. Region 6 will send the calendar to the board in November for their first read. Region 7 will follow the calendar at Advance. At Advance is tentatively scheduled their April break for 15th through 19th, but we don't have a definite anything. So, and originally when we contacted the Warner, they weren't sure if they could hold that Friday, June 14th. Now it looks better, so we're keeping our fingers crossed on that. So to be continued.
All right, do you need us to do anything?
No, that was just a presentation.
All right, field trip THS 9 through 12 out of country, April 2024, Berlin Play.
Right, so this is, you know, the Aaron Sullivan group that runs the International Travel Club. This is her proposal for, they go every other year to an out-of-country trip, and this is their proposal for they actually went, as you know, Paris and Amsterdam this current school year. Same company that she uses every time.
I'm happy to see us not going to the same Paris, London, Amsterdam, at least everyone goes to. I'm happy to see us go someplace
Nice
else.
mix.
Right. Right, and this is gonna be a different experience.
Yeah, you go through the Tartars, it's a different experience.
Yeah.
They have electricity there. My grandmother was from there. It was so bad we left is the way she characterized it.
Is there any concerns about safety just with everything that's going on right now? It just seems.
Those are countries that are pretty much in control of themselves right there.
If there's a problem there, there's a problem there. Because they're made of arms.
Well, I mean, certainly there's an element of risk no matter
Well,
what
you
you do,
were-
and where you go,
Right.
right?
Probably won't have to get it there.
So, I mean, you know, they're very careful and cautious when they make decisions or when they submit proposals. They've done their homework. They've done the research.
I should look up this algorithm. Safe.
Yeah, no, it's a good place to go. It's less expensive, marginally probably, than our Western Europe. Come back fat because they say they feed the local cuisine.
So it's an 11-day trip, so it's April vacation plus a week.
They do fundraising, yeah.
It says,
Oh, yeah,
or actually a 12-day trip
that's awesome.
on this back page.
Dates, so April 2024.
At the bottom here, that's
Oh,
the
yeah.
itinerary, and it says 12 days.
I'd have to honestly look at the calendar for 2024 and see what that approach. Right, we're still, we still don't know, actually, but I mean, potentially only maybe one additional day.
12 days later. And we don't know what the cost of the trip is.
$3,560.
No, it just says the itinerary for the 12 days.
But there,
The first page, it says 10 or 12.
Yeah, I don't know. what-
If they take the optional trip to Vienna.
Right.
Yeah.
right, and
So then,
my guess is that, right, and she just put April 2024, given that we don't have that calendar established yet, right?
It's my note now. So we're only offering $220 in fundraising opportunities. Just want to make sure I'm understanding this. So the trip is $33.39, of which they have the opportunity to fundraise only $220 of that.
No, that's not what that means. It doesn't mean that that's the only opportunity they have. I think what this means is that she knows at this point that they can commit that 220 per student at this point. There are.
Based on current fundraising
Right.
activity.
There
Oh, that's
are-
good. So
There are always, open fundraising opportunities.
so this is already money in the bank for them.
Right, this is just at this point in time, this is.
Okay, because then here it says how much the total cost would each student be expected to pay, and that's the $33.39. That's why I was
Yeah,
confused by that.
right now.
What about the financial assistance? Has that been discussed, but the box isn't checked? If for those in need, grand or the total? Do we do that with the out of country trips, provide?
It's a very elite trip.
Well, this is not required.
Not in that part of the world.
Right, it runs outside of schools, it's.
It's a great opportunity. I just think it's unaffordable for our kids.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions?
Find out if we want to do it.
Any other questions on the trip itself? Committee report, budget, we've already went over it. Facilities and technology. We had the presentation on our facility review. There will be a joint meeting November 21st, which is the Monday of Thanksgiving week, or I should say a trifecta meeting with the city council and board of finance, so that we can present our facility review to them. That's
When is that?
Monday, the
good.
21st. I sent out some things out there.
Oh, I don't have my school phone. It's on in our emails?
Yes, at 6:30, Monday, the 21st. So we do need a quorum for that because it's a triple. School improvement.
Oh, I already.
School improvement, talked about classroom celebrations last time, that's uniforms, but this meeting is going to be the one coming up the next week, is going to be the big one. It's going to be a great meeting. Community partner update, which promises to be more exciting than I thought it was going to be. And we will be talking about board goals. So anybody who wants to help formulate board goals for this year and probably next, please come with ideas about what we should be working on. If we aren't already, and maybe which of the goals we're working on now, we can call a day on. I'm ready to discuss that. Could be a long meeting. There won't be any time for policy.
No, absolutely not.
Policy, you've had your 3 shining lights tonight. Are you all set?
We're continuing the crosswalk and anything else that.
Building committee, the biggest update of building committee is we're having the groundbreaking ceremony here Saturday at 11 o'clock. To the public, hope people will come. There'll be. Okay. And, there'll be refreshments after, speakers. Liaison reports, if people don't mind, in the essence of time, would they mind emailing the liaison reports to Marissa, and she will send them out, and we'll make sure they get attached to the minutes. It's already 8:30. Right. Entertain a motion to approve the monthly financials.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Gary and Sue.
Entertain a motion to approve policy number 4083 as presented by the policy committee.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Ellen and John.
Entertain a motion to approve policy 5041 as presented by policy committee.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Ellen and Kathy.
Entertain a motion to approve policy number 5195, student parking privileges as presented by policy. Discussion. All those in favor?
Ellen and Kathy.
And we're removing item.
Yeah.
Just remove E. Entertain a motion to approve field trip THS 9 through 12 out of the country to Berlin, Prague, Krakow, and Budapest.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Gary and John.
Entertain a motion to approve the Board of Ed regular meeting minutes of September 28th.
So moved. Second. I'll second.
All those in favor?
John and Sue.
Entertain a motion to approve the Board of Ed special meeting minutes of September 29th and October 13th.
Second.
All those in favor?
John and Sue.
Entertain a motion to receive the committee meeting minutes in a bundle.
Second.
All those in favor?
Gary and Kathy.
Entertain a motion to receive the consent agenda. So moved. All those in favor?
Sue and Gary.
Items for upcoming agenda, we have monthly financials.
Is student reports every month now too?
Yes,
Is it the high school or do you alternate?
so it'll be the high school.
Oh, okay.
Staffing breakdown from Kim. I've been asked for input school lunches, Becca, to look at. I guess we can decide if that would be a subcommittee or a regular, I'm not sure. Anything else? Comments for the good of the order. Ally, we'll start with you. John, Laura.
I'm good, thanks.
Yeah. I'm good, thank you.
All set.
Marissa. Glenn.
All set.
Sue.
Nice to be back.
Yeah, welcome back.
Kathy.
It was just great to have the student reps back, today.
That was very nice, yes, yes, it was.
I just, shout out to the two companies.
Yeah.
Nice to see them.
You're old.
Yeah, I know. Just, wow.
I taught skaters month.
Yeah. Ouch. Yes.
I would say the information about these will be based in the call center, and then with Torrington, we have the curriculum council when that starts to meet, and then more information about policy.
Thanks.
We'll miss you.
Thank you.
Congratulations to June Signer, ladies, who deserves everything.
Oh, yes.
recognition she's getting, and happy Halloween, everyone.
Happy Halloween. Love your tie, John.
So if any board members are interested in participating in the Future of a Graduate, it is a very large time commitment from now till June for 2 board members that can participate. But it's a lot of meetings. So just if you're considering it, let me know.
Portrait of the graduate, developing that.
Developing what the portrait of a Torrington High School graduate looks like.
You can put me down to discuss it.
So I think as the committee goes, so there's like some framework of meeting schedule, their monthly.
Yeah, I can send it out.
But then once the committee starts, I think they'll determine what that's really gonna look like. So it's starting, it has to be done by June, so it's a lot in a condensed period of time, so I don't imagine it will only be once a month.
Yes, no, there are some months where we have twice a month, yep. Especially in
Oh,
January.
twice a month, yeah, can we just get, can you tell these two, please?
Yeah, so I'll send out some information just in the. interest
Sounds like
of
we're
time
freaking
on
doing
portrait
an
of
artwork
graduate.
of a bust of a
It's
student.
You're gonna be painting.
Yeah.
So it's vision, mission, and then really wrapped around graduate, but you're looking K through 12, really pre-K through 12.
Just basically, and we talked about it last year, I remember it
Yes,
was very
a lot.
interesting and what you were gonna do with it, so, you know,
Yeah, I'll send something else.
yeah, that'll give you better.
And then let
Sure.
me know.
And you said a couple times a month? That's not bad.
Well, I think
maybe a
the
couple
committee
every week.
will, it's gonna be a big time commitment, so I think people just have to consider that, because if you're going to participate, you're gonna need to be flexible to meet the schedule of the committee. So right now, they have once a month, but you won't be able to do that in a short period of time that this endeavor.
Is it during the day or after hours?
No, it's a 5 to 7,
Okay.
and, yeah, we won't be able to reschedule those meetings. because
Okay.
It involves so many other.
You can send out the
board
schedule.
Members, and then we've got, community members and students and admins and staff, so.
And you prefer the same two board members?
It has
Yes,
to be.
it has.
Oh, okay, all right. So
So
once
you
we
have
get the
to, you
schedule, we
basically
can
have
look
to
at,
commit to being able to be sure that you can meet all of them.
Because it's a limited, it's a finite time. We can't keep repeating,
Gotcha.
it's what we did last time, kind of thing.
All right, and thank you, everybody, for all the information. And future meetings, the only thing to add here is because we get weird with the holidays. So the December 2nd policy meeting is on November 30th.
Yes, we get to meet twice.
So they get to meet twice in November. It's just to kind of bump everything up so that people aren't meeting over the holidays.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
The December 2nd policy meeting is on November 30th. It's on our calendar,
Yeah.
but it's unusual. So SIC and policy are meeting twice in November, but they won't be in December. Or you'd have to have a meeting on Christmas Eve.
It's on.
All right, entertain a motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
I
Gary at 8:30.